All right, so we are live here with another episode of the RAW BANDERSON Show. Very grateful to welcome back my very good friend, Mr. Alan Fisher. Alan, how are you doing today?
Wonderful down in Florida.
I know, I'm jealous. Well, we're supposed to get today here in Toronto or Burlington, sorry. We're supposed to get a lot of rain, and it's misty out right now and foggy kind of, but we're supposed to get torrential downpours later. So I'm glad that one of us is enjoying the nice sunny weather. So, Alan, I wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today. How have you been since we last chatted?
Oh, a lot of growth and getting deeper and deeper into a spiritual life. Thank you, because it's a spiral and it's constantly changing and growing, and more appreciation for life.
That's amazing. And so I wanted to, we were chatting a little bit before we started the video, but we just decided to jump right into it. And I thought a good word I saw came up on Facebook memories. I used to go, there was a period where I went through 365 days of learning a new word every day. And today's word years and years ago that I posted was extemporaneously. And I'm not sure if you know what that means, but it means impromptu, kind of without, and that's what we wanted to do. So we decided to jump right into it today. And so if anybody out there tuning in, if they want to go back on my channel and check out the first video that Alan and I did probably about a year ago, I can't believe it's been that long, to really get an idea, an introduction of who he is. But we're going to go into today. I wanted to talk about a few things, as you mentioned, spiritual growth, which I really think of spirituality. People use it differently, you know, soul growth. I think it really means we speak about conscious growth as well, consciousness and expanding consciousness, right? And so today we wanted to focus on living in the moment, presence, and you mentioned you wanted to speak a little bit about identity. And so I wanted to ask you why that's important to you right now, why you think it's important to the world around us as well.
Okay, and you also suggested, what about someone who is just going through hard times and all of this is, they couldn't care less about this. Let's be practical, let's be real. How do we bring it down to earth?
Yes, that's
And
a good thing.
so I'll talk a bit about my background, Rob, a story, and I'll get into that later, talking about stories. But I was beginning to go along the spiritual path, shall we say, and very much into it and really enjoying it. But my wife at the time had different ideas and was, I thought she was on my coattails, but not really. And it eventually led to the breakup of my family. And that was the hardest thing I think I had to go through, as divorce, especially alienation from my children, perhaps. You know, I loved them dearly. I wanted to be there every night to read them a story and all that. So it was very, very, very difficult from a real and practical and down to earth human nature way.
Yeah. And so just to kind of expand on that a little bit, I was wondering, so you mentioned your wife was kind of on your coattails. How old were you and how old were the children? And was it just that you kind of had this, you felt like your life was going in a different path and you kind of maybe grew up and grew apart, or what was the reason for all that?
Yeah, all of that. It was in my 30s. And all of the spiritual talk really impressed me. I was very, very impressed with the people that I met through that. I attended a workshop seminar where people were talking, and I spent all day. I was fresh out of law school. I spent all day trying to analyze, understand what they were talking about. Because I had no idea, just like a lot of people now have no idea maybe what we're going to talk about. And I developed the biggest headache. I thought, are they selling Amway? Are they selling Bibles? What are... And then at about supper time, my head blew and my heart opened. And I've never been the same since. And so I had the experience. My ex-wife didn't really have that experience, although she went along, she saw they were nice people, they were cooking nice food, and they seemed like nice people. Well, I thought they were nice people too, people of integrity who were speaking the truth. And all they were selling, if you call it selling, was life.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that's amazing, because everybody's trying to sell something. What do you mean selling life? Yeah. And it's freely available to everyone. We have that life within us that grew us from little babies to adulthood. Amazing. We see a little baby and we think, oh, how cute, how wonderful, how smooth the skin and all that. But we forget we were once babies. And we are miraculous. We are a miracle. And to appreciate that rather than to get lost in the day-to-day, the job, so I call it the difference between a horizontal dimension and a vertical dimension. And the horizontal dimension that most people are familiar with is birth, teenagehood, schooling, get a job, get a mortgage, get a house, get a car, get married, have children, and then you die.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we're repeating that in every generation.
Yeah.
It goes on and on and on and on. And nobody questions, well, why am I here? What is the purpose? Is that it? I remember the Peggy Lee song, Is That All There Is? And so the spiritual teachings that I came across connected me with the vertical dimension. And I would describe the vertical dimension as living in the present, and that spirit coming down in the moment with fantastic intelligence. And we get in touch with that as we get in touch with the life force within our own bodies and minds. Mm-hmm. We are connected to that same fantastic wisdom and intelligence that is running everything, the planets, the trees, the flowers, the animals. It's amazing. So that's a different way of living and a different thinking and a different identity.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And I like what you said, when you were realizing that, you came to that realization where it's like your head blew and your heart opened. And that's really what is very difficult for everybody to understand. It was difficult for me to understand. And you said it perfectly about this. It's almost like, whether you want to call it look like that, is it a trap or slavery, or it's just the way the world works. But I was reading something a few months ago, and the person said, we need to stop perpetuating the same things we inherited. Otherwise, we don't break out of the matrix, right? So if we just do what we're told and we don't question anything, it's like Socrates or Plato or whatever said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And that's what a lot of people do. Or if they do examine it, they don't examine how to really transcend that. They examine, how can I use my mind to be better at it than others? It's a competitive standpoint. It's, how can I make more money than the other guy? How can I get the Ferrari? How can I? And that's using your mind. And our minds are great tools, but they can also be manipulated. They can be programmed. And that's what I think what we're all really doing right now is overcoming the programs that we were born into, the cultures that we were raised in, the families that we were raised in, maybe perhaps to some extent the genetics we were born with. It's all overcoming that, all the thoughts of our ancestors, the things that we perpetuated. And a lot of the stuff, it's great to have traditions, but do we become a slave to traditions? I was talking about that with somebody, and it's like destination addiction. Okay, Christmas is over. Now it's New Year's. Okay, New Year's is over. Get ready for Valentine's Day. It's always the next thing. Nobody's living today, And so that's where presence comes in. And there's a lot of I think there's a lot of teachers out there that teach spirituality and teach these things, but I think a lot of the new age movement's full of kind of the woo-woo club where it's not practical, right?
Right.
Where we need, and I like that, having these conversations with you, because it's practical experience, things that we can do to live our highest joy. And that's the thing, that a lot of people are living maybe a life that they thought their parents wanted them to live, get a good job or become a doctor or do something like this, like you said, it's kind of like a set thing. Like, you graduate high school at 17, then you go to university, and then you do this, and then retirement party, woohoo, and then it's just kind of downhill until old age, and then you get senile, and then you go in a home, and then and what kind of life is that? That's not the kind of life that's not for. And so how can we rise above that and expand our consciousness and like you said, it's available to everybody. And I wanted to point out that, say you and I speak about Eckhart Tolle a lot. And so I was having a conversation with a friend, and they'd never read The Power of Now. So they didn't know all the trauma and, that Eckhart went through before, and being, suicidal just before he had that aha moment. And so a lot of times people that, you see these people that are like gurus, or call it what you will, but they seem almost otherworldly. So people can't relate to those people. They say, well, I can't listen to that guy because he doesn't know what it's like to be me. He doesn't know what it's like. He's a best-selling author, millionaire that travels the world talking about how hard of a time he had it. So it's not practical. So what can we do to bring that back down for the ordinary person and real life examples? You talked a little bit about identity, and I think that's closely related to people. And you said your story. Well, identity, that's kind of what we have, is a story, right? And a lot of times our story or our narrative is what's holding us back.
Beautifully expressed, Rob. Wonderful. Okay, let's see how we can. Well, first of all, you have to get to the point which Eckhart Tolle did, where, as you say, he was ready to commit suicide. Get to the point where we say, enough. I can't take this anymore. Mm-hmm. But rather than suicide, we're suggesting and offering an alternative to that. How to escape from the just survival mode, how to escape from your present circumstances, the horizontal human nature circumstances. Like some people might say, oh yeah, as you were saying, yeah, that's fine and good for you. You have the time, you have the luxury, you have the money, you have this or that. I have to work for a living. I have to just survive. Yeah, but somewhere along the way, you got to ask yourself, what is it all about? Who am I? And why am I here? Is it just to accumulate things, stuff, get ahead? Where are you getting to? Because as you mentioned, the end line is death, or the old folks home. Before then, who wants that? So I think when we're little children, we imagine all these adventures, a princess or a knight in shining armor, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Well, what happened? What happened to all your dreams? What happened to your potential? What happened to all of that? And people get discouraged. And a lot of teenagers, especially, with what they're teaching in school, it's not relevant to them. I see them on the beach in their bikinis and their thongs nowadays. All they care about is, they live for today rather than live in the present moment, in the day. But let's give them something tangible. Let's give them something worthwhile, rather than just trying to attract the opposite sex or trying to get the things out there externally. What about internally? Who are you? So I'd like to talk about that for a moment, Rob. Identity, because it is a huge transformation. Most people think of themselves as the story, what they did in the past. So, whatever it happens to be, you learned how to be an electrician, or you learned how to be this. Well, the thing is, that's never lost. Your abilities will still be there, but you're not your story anymore. You're not your past. You're not what you did yesterday. You're not what you did in all the other yesterdays. Those were just experiences along the way. And the question is, who is experiencing all that? You, life inside, the inside. And that never changes. It never ages. You're just witnessing all the activities, all the situations, all the circumstances out there. And they are just circumstances. We connect them and we make a movie out of it. Just like a movie is all those still photographs that are moving. And it looks like a movie and it looks like a whole continuous thing, but they're just isolated circumstances along the way. And things you've learned will stay with you. That's fine, but it's not a story anymore. You got to break out of that story and come into the present moment. The present moment is the only place we're living. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, you are fully present, fully aware, fully conscious of what is happening now. Now is where life is. Life is not in the past. Those are memories. Life is not in the future. That's imagination. You've heard all this before, I'm sure. But to really get into the present, to witness what is going on around you. And it's much slower. You know, why are you in such a hurry to get to the end line, which is death? This is a way to slow it down, to not look for, as you were saying, Rob, the next thing. That just creates tension and worry and all those things. Just relax. Let life come to you. So who am I? What is your true identity? And I would suggest that it's not the story. And people are afraid, well, if I lose my story, who am I? You know, this is my experience. This is what I've been. Yeah, forget it. Those are things that happen along the way. They're nice memories. You got them in a photo book or on a computer. But what about now? Yeah. So your true identity is the one within. The life force that we all have, that we can experience, that is animating my fingers, animating my mouth now, making me blink, puts me to sleep at night. That life force is actually who you are. So you're an expression of life in the moment, a neutral, non-denominational, international, global, cosmic. Hey, you are a superhero. You're an expression of life in the moment. And then there's nothing personal anymore. Isn't that wonderful? You're free from that. And if somebody says, you're an idiot, and they threat, it doesn't matter. Because it's not coming in from external, it's going out from you. You're radiating love, kindness, joy. You're not even aging. Your body will change. Your body will age. Things around you may change a little bit. But if you're not attached to them, then it's much easier. You know, if your home changes, if your car changes, if you start losing your hair, it doesn't matter. So what? Those are things that'll happen. But you're a constant, the constant expression of life in the moment. And it's always changing, like the clouds are moving by. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it's sunny, or I'm in the sunny part, you're in the rainy. It
hasn't been sunny here in weeks.
But it doesn't really matter because you're expressing life and you know who you are. And that is very, very freeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love everything you said, and so much of it, you know, I don't even have anything to say or expand upon because it's just wonderful. And I agree with it. And like you said, everything that's happened or you think is going to happen or you want to do, that's all fine and dandy. But it's your state of being now in the moment that matters the most. And that's, I was talking with somebody about, you know, life purpose, and I think that in itself, it's great to have a purpose in the moment, but I don't think that necessarily, like you said, we're just the creator here to create, to experience, to express. What do you want to experience? What do you want to express? Your highest joy, your highest passion in that moment. And that's going to change throughout life. And the problem that I have with a lot of the spiritual movement is like, what is your calling in life? What is your purpose? What is your higher purpose? If you identify with that, then when that's taken away, it's a story. It's just another story. I didn't say, I don't remember before I was being born being my boy. Like, I'm not a, you know, I'm not a refrigerator. I don't have a purpose to keep things cold. I'm a human being. Today, my purpose is going to be different than tomorrow. My purpose right now is to talk to you and connect with you in the moment. When I'm done here, my purpose is going to change. So this whole purpose and calling in life, that's crap. That keeps people trapped in the same slave system as that we're trying to escape, right? So living in the present, yeah, living in the present moment, and your highest joy. What do I want to do right now? Maybe I want to quit my job because I'm miserable and I've had enough, and it's been 5 years of my boss, man, you're not good enough. And I'd say, fuck that. I am good enough, and I'm going to go do something else.
Do we have a bleep?
Yeah. That's how it has to happen, right? And sometimes people, you know, like Eckhart, or I had the same thing too, because I had, it's like the dying before you die, right? Like the death of your persona or the person you built up, and just being able to let that all go. And for myself personally, when I was, you know, I would say at the end of high school, at the beginning of university, we have a lot of external pressures, you know, like I'm the firstborn grandson in my family, so I have 11 cousins, they're all women. So when I was born, it was like, finally a boy, somebody to carry on the family name. So I felt this kind of, whether it was internal or external or just from people saying, like, I just felt this pressure, like I gotta, you know, get a good job and get a wife and kids and carry on the family name. And you know, when I looked inside, but when I went within, I didn't feel that that was that's not what I wanted to do, right? And so it was difficult to say, like, you know, you have the family saying, oh, you know, when are you gonna settle down? And to me, that was not like, what does settle down mean? To me, settle down is, you know, that's death to me. I don't want to settle down. I want to explore. I want to go experience. I want to, you know, I want to ride my motorcycle. I want to go see the world. I want to travel a bit more than I did. And there was points where I thought, oh, I let the external world, you know, I found the good corporate job and I was looking to settle down, and the girlfriend, and it just felt wrong to me, you know? And so I've had a lot of things that I've gone through. I've gone through addiction, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, you know, overworking. Sometimes people, you know, they say, oh, I'm too busy for that. I'm too busy to work. And that's a big drug too, working, you know, that you get so consumed with your job that you forget to live in the moment. You forget. And so in the past few years, I've been going for daily walks to just, like you said, let life come in, go experience nature, go, you know, look at things. There's so much we don't know about life. Like you said, you know, the force that blows the wind, that grows the leaves on the trees, that is in the squirrel and the eagle and all that stuff. There's so many wonderful things that we can go experience in the moment if we let it in, right? And we can only experience that by, like you said, projecting love outwards. Because if you don't project love outwards, then how are you going to say, wow, that eagle's amazing, I've never seen an eagle? And sometimes that might be a once in a lifetime experience to see an eagle close up, and you might miss it because you were like sitting there thinking, oh man, I got to get that bonus and blah blah blah. And no, we don't. There's so much, right? And so you talked a little bit about identity, and so I want to ask you, when you went through your divorce and you lost your former identity, what was the next step for you? So somebody who's going through that, say if they've quit their job, or they've realized that they can't go on this way anymore, or they need to do something different, what would you say got you through that really tough time?
Faith, I guess, because I knew it was right. I knew it made sense. And the other, as painful as it was, I knew that it would all be okay in time. And so faith. But I'd like to get back to something you said, Rob, about thinking. So much of our time is spent in our heads. And that is the worst place to be. Because, and some friend of mine once said, you wouldn't want to be here. You wouldn't want to be in this nightmare. Right. You know, people live in their heads and miss all the things that you were talking about, the eagle, the trees, nature, the beautiful planet that we're on. We miss it. And beautiful people, like you meet someone, be fully present there and enjoy their company. And what people say as far as insulting you or praising you or giving you credit doesn't really mean that much anymore, because as I say, it's not personal. It's just an exciting, wonderful time that's constantly changing. As you said, Rob, life is exciting. And the irony is, the higher up you get, the worse it gets, because your job or your mind or your position gets to be your identity. Mm-hmm. I was a lawyer, a judge. I mean, I think that that's the highest you can go as far as human nature is concerned. And a lot of people, boy, they envy that. But I know so many of my peers, that's who they thought they were. You know, a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. That's not your identity. That's something that you do. That's your work. That's just something you do. Or the thinking mind, that people think that that's people who are very, very smart have a very difficult time of letting go, because that's how they made it through life. You got to manipulate and you got to get ahead and you got to do this. And you got, oh, I got 98 on that score. So what? So what? That was just on one test or one score, or it's not you. That's the point. It's not you. You're missing life. If you think that your identity is tied to externals, you're missing life. You're missing what's around you. I never was identified with what I was working on. That was a temporary thing. I was at it for 40 years, but it was temporary. I never identified with that. I knew who I was. And I will continue to do that, because once you start on that path, there's no turning back. I couldn't eat, with all due respect to McDonald's, I couldn't eat there anymore. It's artificial. It's not real. We could be sued. A few things that we could be sued about here. But I'm
not scared about that. You're a judge. You're a lawyer. I've got you.
But you can taste real food, real tomatoes, real quinoa. That was something that I got into. You are more cautious. You're more aware of what you're putting into your body. And quite frankly, from the woman's point of view, you know, I'm saying the same thing. Because if you're not getting along with your partner, how are you going to make love? Mm-hmm. You know, is there a connection there? Do you really love that person? Are you connected to, are you in agreement with that person? Or are you just afraid? Or is it just a stranger? Is it a temporary physical thing? Who are you? If not the expression of life in the moment, and it's constantly changing. So it's very important to connect with who we are with. I mean, take us, for example. You know, the usual thing is, oh, hi there, Mr. Anderson. How are you today? You know, it's that phoniness. And so you got to be real. You have to be authentic to yourself and with other people. And that is the most important thing. We could call spirit your authentic self, as opposed to the phony self, the mask. you know, let's say, Rob, that we were born into Roman times or Greek times, and we look around, everybody's wearing a toga and everybody's going to the forum. And we would adapt to that. So all we're doing is adapting to the society we're living in, which is fine until you wake up and question it. As you were saying, hey, what is everybody doing here? Because it'll change. It will
Yeah.
change. And there's so many jobs. You know, there's a painter, electrician, carpenter, plumber, lawyer, doctor, Indian chief, whatever your occupation is. You know, there's so many jobs out there. What is your talent? What is your ability? Or what do you need to learn? It's exciting. It's an adventure. We are all, and Indiana Jones. We wake up in the morning and you should be excited because you're on a new adventure. What is today going to bring? Not, oh, I got to have a coffee and wait in line for your coffee. Oh my goodness.
And man, this barista screwed up my order. Like, how dare they?
Yeah, doesn't life know that it's got to center around me?
Yeah. Well, that's, it's really funny what you said. What is everybody doing here? And that's another part, maybe as we can close up the last section of our conversation, because it's really what we've been aiming at. I feel that that we talk a lot about it, and I don't know if we touched on it today, but religion and what is everybody doing here? The first time I remember, I have this memory vivid in my mind being, I never really liked going to church when I was a kid, right? And I remember I must have been, I don't know, say 6 or 7 years old. And I remember just like another thing of the priest, the same thing, year in, year out, never different. And I remember looking around at everybody and distinctively looking at, like, we went to a big church, there's hundreds of people. And I was like, what is everybody doing here? Listening to this guy. And I started asking them, I said, excuse me, mister, have you ever met God or Jesus? And I went around asking people and nobody did. And so I remember that. And so now I've come to the realization, and I think it's something we always knew, but we searched so long in the external world that God is within. And whether or not it was intentionally done, if we've all been duped to think that the priest is the middleman, the gatekeeper to God, and if we go talk to him and confess our sins to him, he's gonna put in a good word with the big guy so we can get through the pearly gates someday, which is another destination addiction, right? And so that's what I think this whole spiritual awakening is realizing that the God is within. There's nobody there to, you are a judge, but there's nobody there to judge you. And I don't believe that we're going to have some life review and there's going to be some guy sitting there with a clipboard at the end of our lives and being like, well, you kicked that dog when you were 7, so down to hell you go. No, heaven or hell of our choosing is right here, right now. It's a frequency we project out and how we see the world. What do we want to see? Are we going to turn on CNN and see war in Ukraine? Or am I going to go walk down to the water and feed the geese? Although I don't know if you're supposed to feed geese. But you know what I'm saying,
Beautifully
right?
said.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, Rob. Religion has provided faith to a certain extent. There is some truth there that there is a superior being or wisdom. So, there is a grain of truth there that I think is important. If people didn't have faith in something above them, some wisdom, super intelligence, whatever you want to call it, rather than just the human. We are human beings. What is being? What is that aspect of us that is tied to everything? That I call it life because we all have experience of life. Mm-hmm. So I call it life. It's non-denominational, neutral. But as far as organized religion is concerned, I think it's just brought separation, as you say. There are so many stories, childish stories that people believe in a hereafter, and they live for after they die, or they say that there's going to be some savior come to save them. It is within. It is the life force within you now. That's who you are. And whether you call it God or Jesus or Buddha or whatever you want to call it, you can call it Rob, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter, because that exists. Even for atheists, it's there. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. Whether you call it one name or the other, doesn't matter, because it is neutral, it is non-denominational, and it is real. It is real. And a great way to prove this, Rob, is to hold your breath for 5 minutes. Most people can't do it.
I can, because I've been doing Wim Hof breathing.
I'll make it 10. I'll make it 10 or 20. But eventually that life force forces you to breathe, forces you to breathe. You can't not blink. Something will force you to blink. It's amazing how we're made. And, you know, you can call it atoms, you can call it chemicals, you can call it electrical, but who put it all together? What makes you work? Because a corpse has the same body. What is missing? So they're analyzing, dissecting a corpse, and they're looking at the heart, they're looking at the brain, but you missed the most important thing that you killed. Life. Life makes it work. And nobody, no doctor, no scientist, nobody knows what life is. They haven't come up with that yet. Thank goodness.
Well, there's really no way to, at least in the English language, to articulate it, what source energy is, what, you know, consciousness, whatever it is. I think maybe some of the best examples, or the best word we have for it, is love. Because like you said, and when the body no longer, you know, when the life force energy doesn't have the amount of energy required to animate that body, it no longer loves it enough to stay there. So the spirit leaves the body and goes on to its next experience, which is probably just a different dimension of an existence or whatever it may be. But that's what over the Christmas holidays, I was reading a book somewhere and said that's what all scientists, anybody who tries to practice alchemy or whatever it may be, the missing ingredient that they can't explain, whether you call it, is life or love. And so that's the difference between why some people are successful and others aren't. They could be doing the same thing. They could be doing the exact same strategies, the same habits, the same formula. They could be, you know, twins. So it's not because this guy's better looking or whatever, that all circumstances are the same, but one guy doesn't really want to be doing it and the other guy loves it. It's just what he, like you said, he wakes up in the morning, I can't wait to go do that. He's going to be successful. And so that's why. So what's the difference? Well, because the love and life and energy is flowing through him. And so that's what we have to really, I think, with the past 2 years and all the stuff that's going on, is really, it's giving people an opportunity to question, like you said, why am I here? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why am I giving my authority to the guy I voted for, the political party, the bad food, you know, all those things, all the way we give our energy. What are we giving our energy to? Is it bad food? Is it bad TV? Is it bad, you know, and good or bad is kind of subjective because to different people and different upbringings. But what we need to do now is realize that I always look for the small signs that the world points out to me. Even yesterday, we were talking about eagles. It was so funny. I went for a walk and I saw a big hawk in the tree, and I was on the bridge, and I go over and I'm trying to summon him. You know, I'm like, hey buddy, come on now. I want to get a closer look, and I can't get across because there's a little creek going down, and I'm like, hey buddy, come on. And I'm just like, you know, trying to use the power of love or the will to summon this hawk or whatever's in the tree to come over to me. And anyways, so I'm like, oh, it's not working, so I'm gonna go away. And I start walking away, And I look up, and right above me, one had come and landed silently, as I didn't realize there was one right above me. So then I had what I asked for. It wasn't the one that I was looking at, but I was like, oh my God, and this lady's walking by, and I had to walk back closer because I didn't realize that it was literally right above me. It'd come in almost behind me and landed. But I got what I asked for. And I stood there for about 20 minutes, just kind of talking to this hawk in the tree, saying, thank you for coming to visit me. And just, and so, but that's living in the moment. And as I was walking home, I saw this, and whether or not it's like, to me, it's like these little synchronistic things that happen. And I think you mentioned it earlier on the call, and I wanted to say, and it said, the sign was path narrows. So as it goes over the bridge, the path narrows. And that's what we have to realize that's happened the past couple of years, is that our paths are narrowing. We have to stop giving energy to everybody and everything. And we have to really decide, we have to take it all in, almost like a laser focus, and say, what do I want? What does the spirit in me want? And that's okay. It's going to change from time to time. And so as we move forward, today in this moment, what do you think for people that, that have lost the jobs, that have disconnected with family members, that have had falling outs, and that their lives have been flipped upside down by what's happened the past 2 years? What kind of advice would you say to them right now and for their futures moving forward?
Commit suicide. I'm being facetious. Your choice is to allow external factors to overwhelm you. I can't take it anymore. Good. Then change your life. Wake up. Become conscious of the fact that you, the life force within, are still here. And that is so precious, so wonderful. And your attitude, as you were saying, Rob, about synchronicity, your attitude and your awareness will guide you, will provide a narrow path for you to live life anew. Change your identity, change your attitude, change your energy, and change your life. And life will respond accordingly. Just like that hawk came to you, things will come to you. Life will come to you, depending on your attitude. And I'll give you another example. If you want to be miserable, try it and complain. Try it. Try it for a week, a month. Just be miserable and just complain. And you'll see circumstances will come to you that will be awful. Or you can smile and express love, as Rob was suggesting, and see the amazing things that start happening, the miracles that start happening around you. You have control over what you express. Mm-hmm. And you can choose to be happy or to be miserable. You can choose the easy way or the hard way. You can try to manipulate life or just allow it to unfold as it may. So your attitude, your energy within has so much to do with what external factors come to you. And life can be so much easier. I call it how life really works. If you express kindness, sweetness, joy, loving attitude, and it's not dependent on externals. Some people say, oh, I'm in a bad mood today. Well, stop it. Stop it. You choose the expression that you wish to send out to the world, and have faith that what you express will come back. And if you want to be miserable and complain, that's what will come back to you. And if you want to be happy and joyful and kind and loving and sweet, then a whole different world will open up for you. So no matter if you lost your job, if you lost your money, if you lost whatever externally, you still have the life force within. Don't squander it. Don't end it. Start from that spot. Start from that wonderful place of being alive. And then you will appreciate every day. You will see through Rob's eyes to appreciate motorcycle racing and being on an airplane and going fast and the color of trees and flowers, the smell, the taste of real food. You'll be so happy, you won't know what to do. And if you only see your kids on the weekend, love them and be with them. They want your love and attention more than anything else. And so do people, so do other people. Give them your love and attention. Watch them grow, watch them thrive. You have the power to do that. So that's why you're here, to express those things, to, as Jesus said, so that they may have life and have it more abundantly.
Yeah, perfectly, like absolutely perfectly said, Alan. And that's what, what we realize is that, or what I've realized is that it's like everybody, when we're stuck in our heads, it's like, well, why isn't the world working the way I think it should? Why isn't the world supporting me in my illusions? Why doesn't this girl love me? Why didn't I, get the job? What is God sitting there? Is he like, a kid with a magnifying glass burning me like an ant? No, it's your thinking. Get out of your heart, or get out of your mind and get into your heart.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times for myself, I know that when I'm in my head too much, like, and it happens to me. It's not that, like we were talking about, like, I'm no different than anybody else. And yesterday was a perfect example. There was some things that business wise that weren't going my way. And my mind told me, oh, you know what? You got to double down and work harder. And I said, no, you know what? My heart says, I got to go for a walk. And I went for a walk, and I went, as I was out for a walk, I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep going. I'm going to just keep, I said, oh, I'll just go for an hour. And I ended up going for about 3 hours and just enjoying. And when my mind was telling me that I don't have the time for this, I need to figure something else out. It's like, no, I'm going to go sit and enjoy the hawk in the tree for 20 minutes and just, the beauty of life, and be so grateful and express that gratitude to whatever you want to call it, whether, like you said before, whether you say it's God or Christ or the infinite intelligence, however you want to describe it. There's many, many words and many different languages, the life force energy, the light, whatever it is. Be appreciative of it in this moment, because that's all we ever have right now, exactly, right? And so this year, as the path narrows, I think that was a good analogy to use. As our paths narrow, that really entails knowing what to say no to. I used to be, when I was young, because I wanted to be the popular guy, the cool guy, the people pleaser, and you don't realize that it's people pleasing when you're young. You think that, oh, I can do it all. I can take on all these things, but then you realize you're holding this whole massive mess of things and these commitments, and at some point, either you let it go or it's going to kill you, right? And so, knowing what to say no to. And I think that's very important. And so I think we're coming up on an hour here. So I wanted to just say thank you so much, Alan. I love you very much. I'm grateful that we've become friends. And you know what the strange thing is, that it was the pandemic that brought us together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
in a way, the pandemic was a blessing in that it forced people to look at themselves, to become aware of themselves a little bit. When the externals were removed for temporary or for a few years, you had nothing to do but gaze at your navel or gaze at your heart and say, what is going on here? All the things that I counted on, all the things that I thought were so stable, they're not here anymore. So who am I? What am I going to do? Why am I here? Yeah, it was a blessing.
yeah, and that's what I said to somebody the other day, that, like, if you want to find God, go look in the mirror. And that doesn't mean that you are the God, that you could do just whatever you want, that you can manipulate others. And people get the wrong idea that when you say, like, some people don't understand kind of from an abstract perspective what it means to be still and know that you are God, but know that you have that, like you said, that life force flowing through you, and you don't need anybody's permission to live your life. You don't need anybody else, and that's why, like you said, with the earlier in the conversation about getting the divorce, that's a oftentimes I was reading the Law of One last night, and it said that a lot of marriages are actually adversarial, and that kind of rang true to me, that you know because people are in that competitional mindset of getting ahead in their own lives, that a lot of marriages aren't based, they're all almost like business contracts, so they become adversarial, like what do you do and how much and people, is that what we really want? People need to really be able to, because true unconditional love, I read in a book the other day that said only 0.4% of the population really understands what true unconditional love is. And that, that maybe that's like what a parent would say, like have towards a child, that it doesn't matter, really what you do with your life, as long as you're happy. That's unconditional love. Like if you can get together, that's good. If you can't, that's okay too. Because a lot of parents, I've seen it, with myself and with other people, is that parents have conditional love with their kids, and that becomes manipulative, right? And so a lot of relationships like that. So to really have unconditional love for others and for ourselves, but to allow people to show up as who they are without wanting to change them, and say that person's just kind of another expression of the creator, which is an expression of myself. So that's how they're expressing themselves in this moment from their level of consciousness, and allow them to be that. And that's, to me, what unconditional love is. So maybe we can extend that out into our external worlds a little bit more this year, right?
But I think a wonderful example of unconditional love, Rob, is the two of us.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for choosing a partner as well, is what is the vibration? What is the spirituality, if you like, of the other person? Who are they really? Are they caught up in their physical form, in their thong, in their bikini, in their hairstyle? Or is it the vibration within that makes them an alive person? So that's what you want to match. That is more important than anything else, really. So, we have respect for each other. We allow each other to live, separate lives. I don't have to own you. I don't have to, it's a letting the other person be themselves, their authentic selves, and a vibrational match, a spiritual agreement, I call it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're an example of that.
Exactly. And I would totally agree. And you made a good point. And I think that, as I've never been married, and I'm 39 years old. Will I ever get married? I don't know, because I had this conversation with one of my previous girlfriends, and it was just like, to me, that it's like, why do you need to sign a piece of paper to choose people every day? And that's a lot of things. Like, I'm still on the fence about marriage, because then it seems forced. It seems like this is a binding contract, and if I don't act the way you want me to act, then you're going to take me to court and take 50% of my crap and all this stuff, right? How is that? That's not unconditional love. That's ownership. Why, like, you need, like, you're a former lawyer and judge. Why do I need to have this document? You need to love me. You said till death do us apart. It's right here. You can't go against your contract, your signature of the identity you were given at birth that said yes to that contract. To me, there should be no contracts at all. The only contract we should have is with our own soul and the unconditional love to let people. So as long as you're not harming others, as long as you're not crossing their dominion or trespassing against them, then we should all just be free to go experience what we want, to do what we love in the moment. And if that changes, that's fine. And I was, I was reading something the other day about somebody who went through a divorce, and he was talking about that and how difficult it was for him to get over. And that's why is it shouldn't be difficult. That's not who you are. That person needed to go experience something different, and true unconditional love would say, hey, you know what, that's okay. It's going to be tough. I'm going to shed a few tears because I really loved you and I don't want you to go, but that's okay. I'll let you go because I love you. And that's what true love is some, it's like the saying, if you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, then it's yours. And if it doesn't, then it was never meant to be. And I think that's what marriage should be based upon. You know, it shouldn't be a contract. It should just be a choice. Every morning you get up and you say, hey, I choose to be here with you. What do you want to do today? How do you want to show up? How do you want to be? What do you want to experience? What do you want to learn? That's true love, right?
I agree. I agree. I have no hard feelings towards my ex. I wish her well. She got married, remarried within a year, and I wish her well. But I realize now, how the heck were we together? We're totally different people. So I'm thankful that I am free to be me. I don't know how long we have left, Rob. How long do we have left?
Well, you know, we could talk forever. It's my show, so we could do a 4-hour one if we wanted
No,
to.
no,
But
no.
no, it's 11:30, so we've been going for about an hour, and my battery wasn't charged. I thought I plugged it in, but I guess my it wasn't actually plugged in. So, but
Okay.
yeah, I think you know, we should call it around here. I just wanted to say thank you once again, Alan. Um, I'm grateful for your friendship, and you know, for people that don't know, that Alan and I, we get together you know, not in person, but we do a weekly Zoom call with Carl and a bunch of other people. And that's our chance to show up and connect with each other. And that's important. So go out there and find people that you resonate with, and people that, you know, that allow you to do unconditional love. Because a lot of times people get into communities or groups and things like that. And it's still more of the, it's more of the, like marriage. It's like, well, you got to do this to be part of our group, or you got to have this belief system and that belief system. And that's what I love about the group of us that get together, is that it doesn't matter. Come and go as you please. Show up on the weeks you want to. There's no obligations. That's what unconditional love is. So any parting words for the viewers out there?
No, I think you said it all, Rob. Thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate your
welcome.
input.
Yeah, and I guess I'll see you tonight on the call if you can make it. And if not, it was wonderful chatting with you, Alan, and thank you for joining me once again.
Thank you.